we've got to talk about a man who consistently stays in the MMA media spotlight without having a fight. Conor McGregor, has released some DMs between him and Dana White talking about his season and what happened and evolved there. Basically, he was asking for he was asking for a couple of fights. Can't wait to get your boys' reaction on Diego Sanchez versus McGregor. Also talks, apparently has a Manny Pacquiao boxing fight in the works, and says that, Dana lied to him or something of that nature, was lying about him trying to duck Gaethje, or, the classic back and forth between Conor and Dana. I'm just going to throw it to you, Drake. What do you make of this whole McGregor saga? Go anywhere you want with it, because it's everywhere, of course.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that we continue to learn that everybody is Dana White's kid, right? Everybody is his son. He calls everybody kid, even in text. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. He said it like almost every message. That was funny from that specifically. I think that Conor, at this point, he's trying to like talk things into existence, because it's hard always to believe Dana, but I do believe him that he would say a little bit of something if there was some smoke at the Pacquiao fight negotiations happening right now. I mean, yeah, we've heard some stuff in the past and whatnot, but I feel like he puts these things out there, so then it creates something, right? Like, whether there's any truth behind it or not, this is just what he wants, and him saying that, everyone's going to believe it, because Conor doesn't put things out there all too often, especially like this. Airing out the DMs. I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of a ballsy move. I mean, it's your boss and everything, but he's at a pretty safe spot too. So it's like, does it really matter in that case? The Diego Sanchez stuff. I have no words for that. Really, that's just the funniest thing ever. Yeah, I really don't have a comment, because it's just so ludicrous, especially as we continue to see Diego fight, which he should stop doing that probably. It's typical Conor antics, I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I can't imagine Diego Sanchez versus Conor McGregor. We'll circle back to that at some point in this, because we've got to talk that fight prediction, right? We have to, because who knows how that could go. But Matt, I mean, yeah, aired out the DMs, saying that he was ready to step up. Dana says he's violated the man's code, which I don't know. I mean, I haven't checked my man's code booklet that they send out when you turn 18 in a while. Maybe you're more familiar than I am. Did he violate it? Did he violate by putting the DMs out there? And is he in the wrong here? What was that?
Kind of. Usually you're violating the man code when you're like talking about the opposite sex or significant others in the DMs. That's usually when you're definitely violating the man code, right? Because you're seeing messages that, hey, you're not supposed to see when we're talking about those sorts of things. But when it comes to this, especially, this made Dana look really good out of anything. Dana was like, I'm not about to lose my license for booking this ridiculous fight between you and Diego Sanchez. So no, sir, we're not doing that. So yeah, I'm on board with, it's kind of like, probably not do that. But if anything, Dana should be like happy to kind of have that display of like, look, I'm not with the bullshit behind the scenes. Like, no, sorry. This was straight up a dumb idea from a guy who was once a 2-time champion in your promotion, never defended the belts, obviously, but you go from having 2 belts to calling out Diego Sanchez in 2020, which is just weird. Not calling him out, but suggesting that fight directly to the promoter is just weird. Absolutely weird. Nothing of that makes sense in any realm. I get that he's got the tough one winner accolade, but it's Diego Sanchez in 2020. And you guys saw how he looked at UFC 253. He looked terrible. And then Conor, the worst part is that Conor still wanted to fight him after the fact. Like, what do you mean now? You just went out there and starched Donald Cerrone. What are you talking about?
It's certainly an interesting call by McGregor. for one, I don't know about the man code, but I'm pretty sure he violated his contract because, as far as I've seen, all UFC contracts have a clause that says you're basically not allowed to show things that may. It's legalese, but essentially, you're not allowed to show the actual negotiation tactics, the actual amount of money per pay, all of that. Technically, I'm pretty sure this violates this because this is direct communications between him and the UFC talking about a fight. So the UFC could pursue legal action. They won't because, they want Conor to come back. So they're not going to go that route. But calling out Diego Sanchez, the only thing I can think of is Conor just wants the easiest money possible, right? I mean, he's still going to get paid a ton. The sad thing is, and this is where I'm going to actually come back to you guys and get predictions on this, is we all are in agreement, hands down, that Conor would wreck him. But let's say we get a Henderson-Bisping situation. Let's say Sanchez wins, albeit not great, but wins nonetheless. And then they book Conor versus Diego. How many pay-per-view buys does that do? That's what I want to know. Because I can't imagine hardcores would be that interested, but they're going to watch because it's kind of like a train wreck and like, yeah. But then casuals, like you said, tough one winner. It's a name they could kind of pump up. I don't know. Does it still break 1 million? Because it's Conor. That's what I want to know. What do you guys think?
When you were saying that, my mind just went to watching like the trailer for what the fight would, the build up to the fight, and just how many old highlights of Diego they'd be using. Like they would all be from like 10 years ago, like a long time ago, right? Just like it would be so funny and how obvious, like to non-casuals, we could see through the BS so easily in that case. So that would be really funny actually to see that side of things. But would it break 1 million? Yeah, it's Conor, and it's the freak show point of it that everyone would want to see, right? And I mean, if they were to make that to get hardcores interested, you gotta stack that card up because you got something wrong with you if you are buying specifically for that fight. I think Jack Slack, maybe shout out to him just because he might have said something like that, which was on Twitter. Hilariously accurate, but yeah, I think that any Conor fight breaks 1 million at this point. Even something it might be more than Khabib just because of how insane it is. Like, it could be that kind of case where we're really underselling this. So I think 1 million for sure.
Yeah, that's a very solid point. I mean, that's the freak show fight is Diego Sanchez versus Conor McGregor in 2020. Matt, what do you think? You think Drake's right on this one?
I think like the embeddeds would do like the highest numbers ever with super focus on Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia. I think that would do more, or just not like in totality, the whole fight week videos leading up would do crazy numbers. And it's like, of course, Diego's going to embrace every second of that because he knows it's his last, moment in the sun or under the spotlight, so to speak. But I think it would do 1 million just because, looking at the Cerrone fight, that did 2 million. And that wasn't for a title or anything. It was just, two guys that everybody knows. Throw them in the cage. One's Conor, one's an international superstar. The other's not really. He's a, American superstar. But, yeah, I think it would still do a lot of views just because it's Conor. But I mean, I think that whole luster of like, oh, we have to spend our Saturday watching Conor fight. I think that's kind of gone to the wayside a little bit at this point in 2020, especially if it's against Diego Sanchez. But and of course, because everybody knows that that's just going to be a glorified exhibition, glorified sparring match, like. With the A side, just going out there and toying with his opponent however long he wants to. It would be Floyd versus Conor all over again, but in the MMA octagon, in the UFC's octagon. How long does Conor want it to go?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I would say it's either Floyd versus Conor or Floyd versus Tenshin Nasukawa, that exhibition. Although Tenshin's young and up and coming, he could eventually get there. But just again, in terms of the mismatch, it's it'd be hard to outrank there. So I guess with that in mind, what's next for Conor? Do we want to go there? Do we want to talk about Pacquiao? Do we want to say it's going to happen? Do we think it's going to happen? I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think he boxes Pacquiao? Or do you think he somehow comes back to MMA?
He'll come back to MMA at some point. I think, Conor retirements are a lot more silly than overall MMA retirements, right? If we're going to be honest here, it's not even really retirement. So it's just a vacation, right? That's the thing. He's taking a little vacay. Will he box again? I mean, I could see it. I feel like maybe not for a couple of years though. But the fact that he's talking about it makes you think maybe he wants to do that sooner rather than later. And if Pacquiao's actually, into that idea, then they'll probably do whatever they can to make it. Because why not? Seeing the success of, what the Floyd fight did, even though he wasn't very successful in the fight, the fact that it was such a big thing, it obviously would not be anywhere near as big, I don't think. But it would still be something that generates a lot of money and people would watch it. So yeah, I just can't see it happening too soon, but it could definitely happen sooner than we think. Unfortunately, depends on Pacquiao. I think that's the real thing. If he wants to even bother with that.
Yeah, Pacquiao would be sleeping at home on his couch, and then somebody, like, if his phone rang and said McGregor, he would hop up and just hit the treadmill immediately. He'd be like, "Oh yes, free payday! I love it. Let's go." Because Pacquiao, even though he has a title at this point, like, he's not trying to fight the Terrence Crawfords of the world. He's not trying to get in there against the Errol Spences at this point of his career, because those guys are young lions and they're gonna come in and take your head off. So Pacquiao earning a huge payday, that would be a super good thing for him. Do I want to see that fight happen? I mean, why not? Right? Is the same feeling I had with the Floyd fight. And we're just like, okay, whatever. Like, it's going to make a lot of money. Good for both of those guys. Good for whoever else is cashing out. Cool. Does it mean anything at the end of the day? Of course not. Because at this point, like, I don't care to see Conor in a title run in the UFC, knowing that we're going to see him fight once a year. Like, what is that? Like, why? And not only just once a year, but we've seen the UFC be reluctant to book him this year because there's been no crowds, right? So they don't want to lose out on a live gate for Conor. So, coronavirus messed up all that stuff. So it's just whatever at this point. I mean, if you're a Conor fan, of course you want to see him fight whoever. So sure, do Pacquiao. Don't make me wait 2 years for it though. If not, I mean, definitely don't give me Diego Sanchez though. Definitely don't do that. Definitely don't do that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. It's weird. UFC wants to get that live gate squeeze out of McGregor. It's true that McGregor gates are the biggest, of course, but it's also, when you look at their overall revenue share, gates aren't that much. I think they're something like 13-14% historically. So at max, that's kind of weird to me. I guess they're just trying to get every cent they can out of the guy, which, that does make sense from the UFC business standpoint. But yeah, the only thing I can hope for in a McGregor Pacquiao fight is that the Irish fans rush to get those odds down to where, Floyd Mayweather was only -300 at one point. I remember that. I remember making some money. I remember being very happy. Thank you, Irish fans. Thank you so much. So yeah, do that again. Sure, Pacquiao's older. He can beat him. Do it. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement that if we have to watch Conor fight between Pacquiao and Sanchez, let's go ahead and do Pacquiao. I think that makes sense. Sorry, Diego. Next time, get a
next time,
get a big win, and next time, man, you'll get him next time.